Let's take a look at Canopy Growth. That stock doing better today. The shares did come down. They're always volatile, these cannabis growers. Shares came down yesterday after the company reported a bigger than expected loss, or at least bigger than expected by some investors. Ontario is out with its cannabis regulations for retail stores. Who better to talk to than Bruce Linton, founder, chairman and CEO of Canopy. He joins us now. Bruce, thanks very much for coming on the show.
Good to be here again, Andrew.
Just walk us through, give us the two highlights of the quarter you just reported, if you would.
Yeah, so, well, the highlights were that it was a big ramp up. All the shipments to the provinces really occurred starting effectively October 1, and they've been ongoing. So we carried a great deal of costs through the quarter that relate to everything from branding, preparatory structures, so you could actually have a shipping structure, you could have all of the packaging, everything ready. And so probably we didn't do the best job we could have to help analysts understand there was nothing shipping in the quarter other than medical. The second part was that you know, when we look around what we were doing, we're up to about 120 patents filed with the companies that we own and that are in the process of buying. And so we're trying to explain to everyone that shipping some dried cannabis will be a great business, but the really long-term great business is intellectual property, and we spend a lot of money on developing that.
So one thing that caught investors' eyes was a tiny amount of recreational pot shipped in the quarter.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, Aurora had the same thing, not very much, because this was prior. I mean, the big sales occurred in early October. But you guys say we were taking it cautiously. We wanted to make sure the systems were working.
Yeah, so what we did in the quarter is we actually had each of the provinces take a small shipment so that we could test everything from, do the barcodes match with what they thought? Does the SKU when ordered match with what they thought? Because we knew we were going to be pouring the fuel to the shipping process in October, and it was better to stress test or at least you know, use each of the provinces' systems because they're all unique. And that exercise was pretty informative, so it's gone quite well in October, November. Yeah,
I mean, it's easy to underestimate the complexity of doing this. You're dealing with bureaucrats, you're dealing with a new industry as well. One thing, though, that caught investors' eyes was a fall-off in medical volumes. Scotia was concerned here. They said, we feel that Canopy could be losing market share in medical. And that's a high-margin business. Yeah. What happened there?
So we have really two parts of medical. One is what we ship to Germany, and that was off basically on timing issues, getting approvals and getting product to them. So we were, about half of our fallback was there. And then we did have some of our customers, actually our patients, I think, paused and went, well, maybe I'll go to, you know, to the store and see if it's different. And I won't spend the money I have right now. But I think what you're going to see is actually rec will grow quite a lot because now if you're a patient, suppose you're taking some pharmaceutical product and you don't love the result and you certainly don't like the side effects. Now when you go to see your doctor, you can talk truthfully and openly and say, it's not about a party, it's about a better solution. And I think a lot more of those conversations will happen. We're running, we've lined up about 15 clinical trials. We've got 2 kicked off in terms of approval. I think as we get medical evidence, that sort of more open topic, I bet medical becomes quite a lot larger.
So you feel that some of your medical patients actually didn't buy the stuff from you. They decided, no, I'll go and try the legal stuff or the recreational legal stuff?
Yeah, I think they paused and said, you know, if I have a limited budget, which, you know, is a reality for a lot of people, they may have taken a pause. You know, we don't have exact answers, but, you know, it was a small slowdown. I think over the midterm, medical is going to be a very big business because there are, you know, literally hundreds of millions of people who will be governed under a medical-only system in Europe, South America, Australia, and that's going to mean that whatever we invent in Canada, we can actually export the intellectual property to those other medical jurisdictions. So I'd keep an eye on medical as probably the big upside for the next year.
Now, you had an overall, I know we get into the complexities of accounting here. You had an overall loss, though, of just north of $330 million for the quarter. Why was that?
Well, so that includes a whole bunch of, you know, I'll call it non-cash affecting items, whether it's the stock options that people get or items related to idling assets that, you know, are still waiting licensing. So, you know, I'll call a majority of that loss is in that category. But really, we did spend, if you're in Toronto, you almost certainly saw, or in 8 places across the country, if you had an electronic billboard near you.
Oh, yeah, I've seen them, yeah.
Right, and so it's at high. Will it be like gelato? Can I try some before I buy some? Tweed.com for answers. We were able to run those until the evening of October 16th. And so we did have a higher than expected or higher than historic marketing expense. So think of that as about 30 million, but a big chunk of it were the non-cash affecting accounting, as you call it, losses.
That's it. Yeah, I saw those huge Tweed electronic billboards all around Toronto as I do my little rounds. Now, what happened? Sorry, explain there. So, once legalization kicked in on October 17th, you had to stop some of that marketing.
Yeah, because what we're doing was we're building brand, and now what happens on the 17th go forward, that activity can only take place in age-gated environments. So, maybe you should take an evening and go around to a bunch of live stages, and I think you'll see Tweed there. And if you go into the men's room in a bar which is age-gated, you'll probably see some signage there. It's a continuation of what's permissible. One of the things that Tweed and Canopy, I think, has done the best is we spend a lot of time looking at the rules, make sure we comply with them, but maximize our opportunity.
Now, just one last thing. Ontario coming out with kind of the outline of its plans for brick and mortar stores. Still not clear, though, if they'll allow the big growers like yourself to open stores through affiliates. Have you got any clarity on that?
No, I think the good news is they're pounding ahead with the system. Whether or not we have 4 stores or affiliates for 10 or whatever, what we need in Ontario are about 250 stores rather than the 35 that was the prior plan. And so I think this plan is going to be a great one because, if you're trying to compete with the illicit market and going to the cannabis store involves a 3-hour drive, I'm feeling pretty good for the pusher man having an advantage over us. And so I think this is going to be a big wave that hits sometime in Q2 where the stores are full and they're going to have a lot of Tweed product. But whether or not we have 2 or 10 or 0, I think we're going to have at least 4, and I expect 1 in Smiths Falls, and it'll make the whole former Hershey tour complete that we have now.
No, I know you have that experience up there right now, and you'd obviously like to add some product to it. Bruce, thank you very much indeed for joining us.